On March 15, 2025, the United States launched a series of airstrikes targeting Houthi rebel positions in Yemen. These strikes, a significant escalation of U.S. involvement in the ongoing Yemeni conflict, were carried out in response to a series of Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. The strikes, utilizing both air and naval assets, focused on key Houthi infrastructure, including military bases, leadership compounds, and weapons systems. The decision to conduct these strikes, according to the Trump administration, was made after careful consideration of the threat posed by the Houthis and their Iranian backers to regional stability and global trade. The Red Sea, a vital waterway for international commerce, had become increasingly perilous due to Houthi aggression, prompting international concern and calls for action. The U.S., with its vested interests in safeguarding global trade and security, ultimately decided to act decisively. The use of military force, while controversial, underscores the seriousness with which the U.S. views the threat posed by the Houthis and their alleged sponsors in Tehran. The international community, long urging for a peaceful resolution to the Yemeni crisis, now faces the uncertain consequences of this U.S. intervention. The recent U.S. airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen are inextricably linked to the escalating pattern of Houthi aggression in the Red Sea. For months, the Houthis, a Shia-led rebel group controlling much of northern Yemen, have targeted commercial shipping in the region, raising alarm bells in Washington and other world capitals. The attacks, often involving sophisticated weaponry, have disrupted crucial shipping lanes, causing billions in economic damage and jeopardizing the flow of goods through one of the world's busiest maritime arteries. The United States, along with its allies, has consistently condemned these attacks, viewing them as a direct challenge to international norms and a threat to global trade. Moreover, Washington sees the Houthis' actions as being orchestrated and supported by Iran, a country with a long history of hostility towards the U.S. and its allies in the region. The U.S. has accused Iran of providing the Houthis with advanced weaponry, including missiles and drones used in these attacks, a claim Tehran vehemently denies. The U.S. airstrikes, therefore, must be understood within this complex web of regional rivalries and geopolitical maneuvering. The immediate aftermath of the U.S. airstrikes saw a scramble for information as the world tried to assess the damage and gauge the reactions of the parties involved. Initial reports from Yemen painted a grim picture, with the Houthi-controlled health ministry reporting at least 9 fatalities, including civilians. These reports, however, remain difficult to verify independently due to the ongoing conflict and restricted access to information. The strikes themselves, as per statements released by the U.S. military, were carried out with precision, targeting Houthi military infrastructure and minimizing civilian casualties. The Pentagon maintains that the strikes were successful in degrading Houthi military capabilities and disrupting their ability to threaten maritime traffic in the Red Sea. However, the strikes were met with defiance from the Houthis. A spokesperson for the group vowed retaliation, promising to respond forcefully to what they deemed an act of aggression by the U.S. In the wake of the U.S. airstrikes against Houthi targets, President Trump addressed the nation, utilizing his characteristically blunt rhetoric to justify the military action and outline his administration's stance on the situation. Trump, in no uncertain terms, condemned the Houthis as thugs and terrorists, holding them responsible for the recent attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. He accused the group of acting as Iranian proxies, alleging that Tehran provided the Houthis with the financial and material support needed to carry out their attacks. Trump, known for his hawkish stance on Iran, used the opportunity to lambaste the Iranian regime, accusing it of sowing chaos and instability throughout the Middle East. He presented the airstrikes as a necessary response to Houthi aggression, a demonstration of American strength and resolve. Section 5. A turbulent region, U.S.-Iran tensions, and regional instability. The U.S. airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen come at a time of heightened regional tensions, particularly between the United States and Iran. The two countries have been locked in a protracted standoff for years, fueled by deep mistrust and divergent geopolitical interests. The Trump administration's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 and reimpose sanctions on Tehran has exacerbated tensions, pushing the two countries closer to the brink of conflict. The U.S. views Iran as the primary destabilizing force in the Middle East, accusing it of supporting terrorist groups, meddling in the affairs of its neighbors, and pursuing a hegemonic agenda in the region. Iran, on the other hand, sees the U.S. as a hostile power seeking to undermine its sovereignty and regional influence. The conflict in Yemen has become a proxy war between the two rivals, with each side backing opposing factions. The U.S. supports the internationally recognized Yemeni government, while Iran backs the Houthi rebels. Section 6. Economic fallout, global trade in the crosshairs. The economic ramifications of the U.S. airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen are likely to be felt far beyond the immediate region. The Red Sea, where the strikes took place, is a vital artery for global trade, connecting Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Millions of barrels of oil, along with other crucial commodities, transit through this narrow waterway every day, making it a linchpin of the global economy. The Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in recent months had already sent shockwaves through the global shipping industry, prompting insurers to raise premiums and forcing shipping companies to reroute vessels around the southern tip of Africa, adding significant time and cost to their journeys. The U.S. airstrikes, while aimed at deterring further Houthi aggression, have heightened uncertainty in the region, potentially exacerbating the already strained global supply chains. The potential for further escalation and disruptions to shipping in the Red Sea has raised concerns about rising energy prices and shortages of essential goods. Section 7. Shifting sands. A new era of U.S. military engagement? The recent U.S. airstrikes in Yemen, coming after a period of relative restraint, have sparked debate about a potential shift in U.S. military strategy, particularly regarding engagement with non-state actors. Some analysts argue that the strikes signal a return to a more muscular foreign policy, characterized by a willingness to use military force to protect U.S. interests, even against groups not directly controlled by nation-states. This shift, if true, represents a departure from the Obama era's emphasis on diplomacy and multilateralism, and even from the early days of the Trump administration, which, despite its tough talk, largely refrained from large-scale military interventions. The strikes in Yemen suggest a growing acceptance within the administration of the use of military force as a tool to counter perceived threats from non-state actors, especially those backed by hostile states like Iran. This more assertive posture towards non-state actors is not limited to Yemen. The U.S. has also stepped up its military operations against groups like Al-Shabaab in Somalia and ISIS affiliates in Africa and Southeast Asia. This trend indicates a growing recognition within U.S. policy circles that non-state actors, particularly those with external support, pose a significant and evolving threat to U.S. interests. Section 8. Domestic repercussions, Trump's gamble on the world stage. The domestic political ramifications of the U.S. airstrikes in Yemen are complex and far-reaching. The strikes, coming just months before the 2026 midterm elections, have reignited the debate about U.S. foreign policy and the role of military force in a volatile world. President Trump, known for his unpredictable foreign policy decisions, has framed the strikes as a necessary response to Houthi aggression and a demonstration of American strength. He has accused his political opponents of being weak on national security and has vowed to keep America safe from foreign threats. The strikes have been met with mixed reactions from the American public. Some have praised Trump for taking decisive action to protect U.S. interests and deter further attacks on commercial shipping. Others have expressed concern about the potential for escalation and the risk of entanglement in another costly foreign conflict. Section 9. The path forward between escalation and diplomacy. The U.S. airstrikes against Houthi rebels in Yemen have cast a long shadow over the already volatile region, raising questions about the path forward and the potential for either further escalation or a negotiated settlement. The immediate aftermath of the strikes has witnessed a flurry of diplomatic activity, with world leaders and international organizations urging restraint and calling for a de-escalation of tensions. The U.S., while defending its right to protect its interests, has also reiterated its commitment to a diplomatic solution to the Yemeni conflict. The Biden administration has called on all parties to return to the negotiating table and work towards a lasting ceasefire. However, the path to peace in Yemen remains fraught with obstacles. The Houthis, emboldened by their recent attacks and defiant in the face of U.S. military action, have shown little willingness to compromise. Iran, the alleged backer of the Houthis, has also condemned the U.S. strikes and vowed to support its allies in Yemen. The U.S., for its part, faces the challenge of balancing its strategic interests in the region with the need to avoid a wider conflict.